My father left me alone during a family trip. He walked away with my stepmother, smiling as if I didn't exist. I felt the shock immediately, but I refused to let it break me. For years, I had trusted him, believed he would always protect me, and now he had chosen her over me. The betrayal cut deep, but it sparked something inside me, a determination I hadn't known I possessed. I started paying attention to every detail he had thought I wouldn't notice. Strange bank transactions, unlisted properties, and hidden investments, all of it became part of a puzzle I was determined to solve. I spent weeks quietly gathering documents, making notes, and tracking patterns. Every secret he tried to keep from me was slowly revealed. One evening, I discovered a property deed under his name transferred to a shell company. My heart raced. This was just the beginning. Soon, I uncovered offshore accounts, investments in companies no one knew he controlled, and contracts hidden from everyone. Each revelation confirmed what I had suspected: he had built a secret empire and believed I would never challenge him. I studied the legal process, learned how to claim assets, and organized everything meticulously. I knew that rushing or making mistakes could cost me everything. Every move I made was calculated. I was patient, and I was determined. This wasn't just about money, it was about recognition, about reclaiming what was rightfully mine, and proving that I couldn't be erased or ignored. I began with the bank accounts. I contacted lawyers, presented evidence, and ensured every claim was irrefutable. Nothing could stand against the proof I had compiled. Then I moved to the properties. Court hearings, contract verification, and meticulous legal strategy ensured that I wouldn't leave anything to chance. My father thought he could manipulate the system, but I had knowledge, evidence, and determination on my side. My stepmother never suspected I had discovered everything. Every contract she approved, every purchase she facilitated, every decision she made without my knowledge, was documented. I had the power and the proof to reclaim my place in the family. When the day came to confront them, I presented my case with quiet confidence. There was no shouting, no dramatic scenes. The evidence spoke for itself. My father and stepmother were stunned. Every step of my plan had been precise. I didn't just take back what was mine, I ensured that no one could dispute it. Hidden accounts were transferred, properties registered under my name, and control of family assets shifted completely. My father tried excuses, my stepmother attempted manipulation. None of it worked. I had anticipated every argument and prepared every counter. As it ended, I realized this wasn't about vengeance, it was about recognition of my worth. I hadn't taken anything that wasn't rightfully mine. They had underestimated me for years, thinking a young woman could not challenge them. I had proven them wrong. My father looked at me with regret. My stepmother was speechless. The girl they left behind had grown stronger, smarter, and unstoppable. Everything they had believed was secure was now in my hands. The day I was abandoned became the day I discovered my strength, my intelligence, and my ability to reclaim what was mine. They had celebrated my absence, but I had turned it into my ultimate triumph. I had not only regained the family fortune but had also established my position and proved that no one could ever dismiss me again. I had learned patience, strategy, and resilience. I had transformed betrayal into empowerment. The girl who had been left behind during a trip had become the woman who controlled her destiny. Every secret I uncovered, every document I secured, and every calculated step I took reaffirmed my position. No one could challenge me. No one could take what I had fought for. In the end, I didn't just reclaim wealth, I reclaimed respect, dignity, and my rightful place. My father and stepmother had thought they could erase me from the family narrative, but I had rewritten it. The betrayal they had thought would break me instead forged me into someone unstoppable. I had turned pain into power, humiliation into strategy, and abandonment into absolute control. I smiled quietly, confident and unshaken. What they had celebrated as their victory had been the very moment that prepared me for mine. I was no longer the girl left behind, I was the one who held everything in my hands. Their shock was proof of my triumph. The legacy they tried to hide from me was now mine, fully and irrevocably. I had claimed everything, not through anger, but through intelligence, persistence, and unwavering resolve. The experience taught me something important: abandonment doesn't define you, your response does. I had turned a single act of betrayal into a life-changing opportunity, proving that anyone who underestimates you will eventually witness your strength. My father's decision to leave me behind had set in motion a chain of events that I controlled entirely. I had emerged victorious, and no one could deny it. From that day forward, my life changed. I had the fortune, the respect, and the power that had once been denied to me. I had learned to never rely solely on others' morality and to always protect what belonged to me. My father's betrayal had become my stepping stone. My stepmother's confidence had been shattered by my preparedness. I had reclaimed what was mine, and nothing could take it away. After I took it all, I didn't feel a sense of triumph immediately. Instead, there was clarity. I had expected anger, satisfaction, or relief, but what I truly felt was power, precise, calculated, and undeniable. I had uncovered secrets my father thought were untouchable, accessed wealth they assumed I couldn't claim, and yet, I knew this was only the beginning. Taking control wasn't about the money alone, it was about claiming my rightful place in a family that had tried to erase me, proving I was not to be ignored. I began by reviewing every asset I had secured, making sure that nothing could be reversed or challenged. Bank accounts were transferred, investments registered under my name, and properties legally documented. Every step was deliberate. I double-checked the contracts, verified ownership, and ensured that all evidence of the previous mismanagement or concealment was irrefutable. My father and stepmother had relied on the assumption that I lacked the knowledge or the courage to challenge them. I shattered that assumption completely. Next, I analyzed the family businesses my father had always claimed were beyond my reach. He had kept me away from board meetings, decisions, and key financial strategies, believing that youth and inexperience would prevent me from understanding. But I had studied quietly, learning patterns, reading contracts, and asking discreet questions to the right people. Slowly, the knowledge I accumulated became as solid as the evidence I held. I wasn't just reclaiming money, I was reclaiming authority and influence within the family structure. With the legal groundwork in place, I approached the final hurdle: my father's direct interference. He had attempted to regain control once he realized I had begun to assert authority, sending lawyers, advisors, and even family friends to challenge my claims. I anticipated every tactic. I countered every argument with documented proof, tracing every transaction, contract, and signature that established my rightful ownership. Each challenge he raised was met with meticulous preparation, leaving no room for dispute. My stepmother, who had always relied on charm and intimidation to maintain her hold, soon realized that her usual tactics were useless against me. She attempted manipulation, tried to discredit my findings, and even pressured mutual acquaintances to intervene on her behalf. But I had built an unassailable foundation. Each attempt to undermine me only reinforced my position, showing me just how underestimated I had been. The very same underestimation that once caused me pain had now become my greatest advantage. I didn't confront them publicly. There was no shouting, no dramatic scene, no display of vindictive satisfaction. Instead, I executed every action quietly, efficiently, and decisively. I transferred ownership of bank accounts, finalized legal claims on properties, and ensured all documentation was airtight. By the time my father and stepmother realized the full scope of my moves, it was too late. Everything they thought they controlled had shifted into my hands. While securing the financial and legal aspects, I also addressed their attempt to control family perception. My father had always projected an image of authority and respect, believing that public opinion would prevent me from challenging him. I countered that by revealing only facts, verified documents, and irrefutable evidence. The truth became my tool, and in every discussion with extended family and advisors, it spoke louder than any argument they could make. Through this process, I discovered something vital, not just about the family fortune, but about myself. The person I had been at 22, abandoned, hurt, and underestimated, had transformed into someone formidable. I had patience, strategy, and insight that my father had never anticipated. I realized that real power comes not from wealth alone, but from preparation, intelligence, and the ability to act decisively when opportunity presents itself. Eventually, my father attempted a final appeal, desperate to regain what he considered his control. But each legal path he tried was blocked by the meticulous work I had done. Every contract, account, and property claim was airtight. His frustration was palpable, but I remained calm, collected, and unwavering. My stepmother, once confident in her ability to manipulate, found herself powerless and isolated. I had taken control not through anger or emotion, but through precision and foresight. The process was exhausting, but with each victory, I gained not only tangible assets but confidence. I had proven that betrayal did not define me, my response did. The girl who had been left alone during that family trip had grown into a woman capable of outsmarting the people who had underestimated her. I had reclaimed my rightful place, not only as a beneficiary but as a person of authority and influence within the family. By the time the final settlements were complete, I had done more than secure financial assets. I had created a legacy for myself, ensuring that no one could challenge my claim or dismiss my abilities in the future. The power dynamics had shifted completely. Where once my father and stepmother had held the upper hand, now I controlled the narrative and the resources. Through every stage, I kept my focus on the end goal. I didn't allow myself to be distracted by anger, resentment, or the desire for retribution. Instead, I let logic, strategy, and preparation guide my actions. This approach allowed me to maintain clarity, minimize mistakes, and maximize the impact of every decision I made. In the end, the transformation was complete. I was no longer the abandoned daughter at the airport. I was the one who held everything in her hands. The family fortune, the respect I had been denied, and the acknowledgement of my capabilities, all of it belonged to me now. My father and stepmother were forced to recognize that the person they had dismissed had become the most formidable force in the family. I had proven that intelligence, patience, and determination could outmatch betrayal and underestimation. What had once seemed like a devastating loss became the catalyst for my greatest achievement. Taking it all had not just been about assets, it had been about reclaiming power, self-respect, and control. I had shown that being underestimated was never a weakness, but a chance to prepare for a decisive, unstoppable return. The lessons were clear. Trust, persistence, and careful planning allowed me to convert abandonment into triumph. The girl left behind was gone. In her place stood a woman who understood her worth, recognized opportunity, and acted without hesitation. The day I was left alone had become the day I gained everything that truly mattered. After taking control, I realized that reclaiming the fortune was only the first step. The real challenge was ensuring that my authority was recognized, that my father and stepmother could no longer undermine me, and that the lessons I had learned from betrayal would solidify my power permanently. I was no longer the girl left behind, I was now a force they could not ignore. I began by addressing the family businesses. My father had always assumed that I was incapable of understanding operations, finances, and strategy. He had kept me away from board meetings and excluded me from decisions, believing that youth would prevent me from asserting myself. I had studied quietly for months, analyzing reports, understanding market trends, and identifying weaknesses he had overlooked. When I stepped in, it wasn't as an unprepared challenger, it was as someone who knew exactly where every leverage point existed. I called a private meeting with key advisors and board members. I presented my vision and strategy, demonstrating both competence and insight. They were surprised at first, as they had expected uncertainty or hesitation. Instead, I spoke with authority, confidence, and a precise plan for growth and management. Every move I recommended was backed by research and understanding, leaving no room for doubt. Slowly, the tide turned, and the respect I had long been denied began to shift in my favor. Meanwhile, my father and stepmother were forced to adjust to their new roles, or lack thereof. Their attempts to regain influence were met with firm boundaries. My father tried to leverage his history and prior authority, but I had prepared for every scenario. Every contract, every asset, every decision I had made was airtight, leaving him powerless to interfere. My stepmother, used to manipulation and charm, quickly realized that her usual tactics were useless against someone who had anticipated her every move. Despite the tension, I approached my actions strategically, not vindicatively. I did not seek to humiliate them in public, nor to belabor past mistakes. Instead, I focused on creating stability and clarity, asserting my position while maintaining control over resources, reputation, and decision-making. This allowed me to transform personal victory into lasting authority. Over time, I solidified control over family operations and finances. I restructured key aspects of the business to ensure sustainability and transparency. Advisors, previously loyal to my father, began to acknowledge my competence. They saw the meticulous work I had done, the clarity of my vision, and the intelligence behind every decision. My father, once the unquestioned authority, found himself sidelined, his influence curtailed without conflict but with undeniable effectiveness. My stepmother, confident and manipulative as ever, attempted to sway perceptions among relatives and friends. But by this point, I had cultivated my own alliances and established credibility. Her attempts fell flat, her influence weakened as mine grew. I realized that control was not merely about legal or financial power, it was about perception, strategy, and the ability to consistently demonstrate capability. The personal satisfaction of these victories was profound. I reflected on how far I had come from the girl abandoned during that fateful trip. Each obstacle I overcame, each secret I uncovered, and each decision I executed strengthened not just my material position, but my sense of self. I had learned resilience, patience, and the power of preparation. I had transformed betrayal into opportunity, humiliation into leverage, and abandonment into empowerment. As the months passed, my father's attempts to regain control dwindled. He realized that every strategy he had relied upon, intimidation, charm, influence, was no match for preparation, evidence, and competence. The dynamic had shifted irreversibly. My stepmother, too, found her authority minimized, her attempts to manipulate blocked at every turn. They had celebrated my absence once, but now they understood that the person they had underestimated had become an unshakable force. I also focused on securing my personal legacy. I restructured family assets to ensure transparency, establishing clear documentation, succession plans, and oversight mechanisms. No one could dispute my claims, and no future manipulations could undermine my position. The fortune and control were not only secured, they were protected. In the final confrontation, I met with my father and stepmother privately. No shouting, no dramatics. Just clarity. I explained my actions, my reasons, and the results. They listened, pale-faced, realizing that their assumptions, manipulations, and secrets had failed. They had underestimated me, and I had used that underestimation as my greatest advantage. The sense of triumph was profound, but tempered with wisdom. I had not acted impulsively, I had acted deliberately. I had proven that intelligence, patience, and strategy could overcome betrayal and injustice. I had turned abandonment into empowerment, and humiliation into authority. By the time it was truly over, I had achieved something far greater than reclaiming a fortune. I had claimed my rightful place, established respect and authority, and demonstrated that no one could erase me from my own life. The girl left behind at the airport had become a woman in control of her destiny, and that realization, above all else, was the most powerful victory of all. Every secret uncovered, every calculated step, and every assertion of authority ensured that I would never again be overlooked. My father and stepmother had been forced to confront their misjudgment, and in doing so, I solidified my position permanently. What had begun as betrayal had become my ultimate triumph. I smiled quietly, reflecting on the journey. Abandoned and underestimated, I had used strategy, intelligence, and perseverance to claim everything that was mine. I had transformed pain into power and betrayal into opportunity. And in the end, I had proven not just to them, but to myself, that no one can define your limits except you. The girl left alone during that trip no longer existed. In her place was someone unstoppable, in command, and fully aware of her strength, knowledge, and ability to shape her future. The story that had begun with abandonment had ended with empowerment, and I had claimed everything, fortune, authority, and respect, forever.